Retirement isn't always a stroll in the park, yet a lot of us fail to make plans for this inevitable next phase of our lives. And not planning for retirement is an open invitation for a later life crisis. Almost a year ago, I had a guest writer, Emmanuel Okara, write an article on my blog, Ibinabo and Enebi, and he talked about, and the title of the article was "Retirement Isn't a stroll in the park, and 8 things I learned." And he said this, and I quote, that whether we like it or not, the seemingly distant day of retirement will surely come. And pending that day, we must prepare for it because it's inevitable. And so I ask you, what plans have you made for a quality life upon your retirement? So, hello everyone and welcome to Ibi Speaks. My name is Ibinabo Enebi, and first and foremost, I want to thank all of my faithful viewers, my subscribers, and those of you joining me for the first time, that I'm delighted that you're here. I'm super, super excited. And in case you're wondering what this channel is all about, my channel is about encouraging, motivating, and informing you to make better decisions in your life. And I do this by bringing in experts, thought leaders, professionals, people who know their stuff to share their stories and their expertise, because I believe that our stories, our collective stories and experiences, are not just ours to keep, but they are content enough to share, because they become the streetlights and survival kits that people that are coming behind us would use or would need. And so throughout this season, I'm doing the Avoiding the Later Life Crisis series. And I think this is going to be the 6th installment of the series. I've had I think I've had 6 or 7, not really very sure, but I've got very interesting conversations. We've talked about finances, we talked about writing your affair, organizing your affairs, we've talked about knowing your identity. All of these conversations is geared towards helping us to avoid later life crises in future, so that we don't make mistakes when we get there. So the episode for today is it the 7th installment? I'm not sure. And it's about how to plan for a successful retirement. And to do justice to this conversation is my special guest, Inyang Sami-Orungbe, a personal financial and retirement planning expert. Inyang, welcome to Ibi Speaks.
Thank you so much, Ibinabo. I'm delighted to be here. And
Oh,
good evening, everyone.
yeah. I'm just smiling from cheek to cheek, yeah, because I'm so happy that you're here. A lot of people have said very very glowing things about you. And somebody said, oh, listen, I listened to her speak one time, and I was just scooping through your social media, your Facebook and your Instagram, and I see that you're very passionate about planning for retirement and retirement altogether. So I'm very, very delighted that you're here. And guys, at the end of this conversation with my special guest, I hope that you would know whether you're on the road to a successful retirement. You would know when is the best time to retire. You would know that the most common mistakes to avoid, and much more. And listen, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe. As Ibinabo Enebi. You can be a part of this conversation by leaving your comments in the comment box below if you're watching via Zoom, and if you're watching via YouTube, again in the comment section below as well. And I'll try as much as possible to read out those questions so that my guests can answer them. And so, Inyang, welcome once again to Ibi Speaks.
Thank you. Delighted to be here.
Yeah. So before we start the conversation proper, I would like you to please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, great. I'm a retiree, right? I've had most of my working life in the financial services, industry. I was in banking, Stanbic IBTC. I worked a bit in telecom. Then I actually, retired from AXA Mansard. But before then, I was the head of marketing at Crusader Sterling Pensions, one of the PFAs. And so when I retired from AXA Mansard, I came into a partnership with 3 other ladies. And right now we run like a business solutions agency in Lagos. But because perhaps of my experience in investment banking, asset management, and pensions industry, I sort of started, developing this passion for retirement planning. One, because during engagements with pre-retirees, because we would run training sessions and workshops for people that are about to retire, there was always that fear I saw in people's eyes all the time, just now coming to be told that because they are retiring, there are some things they needed to hear. And I found that for most of them, it was practically too late, because for many of them, they were retiring from those organizations maybe within 3 months, at best 8 months. And by that time, it's practically late for course correction. So the dread and the fear that I saw in their eyes was part of what motivated me to come into this space where, I started, talking to people and coaching people on what they needed to put in place towards their retirement. Because whether we like it or not, we'll all retire. And whether we like it or not, it's a substantial number of years of our lives, which we certainly should plan for. But I know that in the past, that hasn't always been the case.
Fantastic there. I was just, listen, you said it all, because there's something that you've said that we're going to touch on later in the conversation. When I hear about retirement, and I'm going to say this, the first time I heard about retirement was when my father was retiring. And that was the first time, I think that was in about 1986. I'd known my dad working all his life. And I think my elder brother sent him a card to say, "Happy retirement, Daddy." And at the time, I didn't know what retirement was. But then my dad had been talking about retirement. And at the time when he was working, in those days, right, they begin to, ease you into your retirement. But as an adult now, my fifth floor, whenever I think about retirement, to me, it feels like life is about to end. I feel my mortality looking right at me. I'm like, number your days. The good Lord, teach me how to number my days so I can apply myself to wisdom. I can practically count the number of years I have left, So for me then, the question I'm going to ask you is retirement or retiring such a bad thing?
I know, and it is not. Definitely not. As a matter of fact, I think that retirement should constitute some of the best years of one's life. I can say that categorically because I'm living it, right? Because this is a time that you don't owe anybody anything anymore, so to speak. Nobody is checking on you to be out of your house at any particular time. You don't have to be anywhere at any time. You are not answerable to anybody, so to speak. So your time is actually yours now. This is a time of freedom, of liberty, of living it up. So really, why should that be a time that we are dreading? But that dread can only come if we had not anticipated those years and we had not planned for them. Because for me, I'm actually living some of the best years of my life, no kidding. And it's fun. And that is how I feel it should be for everyone.
But you see, listen, let me just applaud you first. I applaud you because first and foremost, you don't look like a retired. But I get it. And well, I have elder sisters that are retired, that have gone on to do other things in life. One of my sisters, I keep saying that all the time, at 60 plus, had to go do a third degree, and retired from banking and started another life with nursing, and another one retired and then went back to do a PhD and all of that. So, I get it, but retirement happens at the time of our lives when a lot of things are happening. So for a lot of people, is the empty nest, the feeling that, the children have all left home. And then it also happens at the time when productivity is declining. It happens at the time when a lot of things are declining, really. For people who are married, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm really very interested or very surprised or very happy to hear that you're living your best life.
I am actually, and I'll tell you why. Because there is no, for me. I mean, I say that what I'm doing now is my second career,
Oh,
and God has enabled me to find purpose for my life at this time, and
hmm.
there's nothing better than that, because what I'm doing now is something that I practically feel I've been called to do, because I can't even believe how much I'm enjoying myself doing this, impacting lives, right? So, and it always takes planning. I mean, you talk about emptiness, for example. If one is married, and this is why we must not take things for granted, because building friendship in your marriage is really important. And like I said, if you are married, right? So that is something you should nurture in anticipation of when the children will not be around anymore. The friendship has to kick in. Now there's no child, coming to, encroach on your space or your attention and all that. So you and your spouse, I mean, this is it for you. So that friendship has to have been intentionally built over the years, because you're going to be, back to just two of you at the end of the day. So that helps a lot. But even if you're not married, I always say that your life while working should never just be about your 9 to 5. You must spice up your life with so many things. I mean, different relationships. I mean, you're having your girlfriends, your sisterhoods, you do things with them. You have a lot of things you do for recreation, for example, your fitness club. Because I find that my life has, different pockets, and which is why, yes, my husband is there, but I believe that there was something I also intentionally did to help me, just have these other support groups around me, that I'm not even that clingy to my husband. I don't need him all the time, right? And my assumption too is that he shouldn't need me all the time, but we're there for each other. So you have your, sisterhood, people that you do lunch and stuff like that with. You have your fitness club. You have different hobbies, things, you go to do, whether it's poetry, whether to watch a movie. You must punctuate your life with all those things, so that in retirement, you are not waking up to nothing. Because I think sometimes that is the greatest dread. That when I wake up in the morning, what will I be doing? Even if you're not working, there must be some vocation that you're onto that is at least helping your mind, to activate your mind a bit. Because that's also another thing you need to do. If your mind is not activated, God forbid, we're talking about depression, dementia, and all those things. Something has to be agitating your mind all the time. Something you're doing, you're planning this, you're writing this, you're reading. Reading is really important, so it is not such a lazy life. So that when you have all these things punctuating your life, my God, it's a very active life. It's a very full life, if I may say so.
Fantastic. You know, I love words and I love poetry. So I love the way you said punctuating your life. So when you these activities to punctuate your life, so it could be a comma or a full stop or a dash, the kind of way. So I really like, that you said that. And listen, I'm taking notes as usual, because whenever I sit here and whenever I bring the experts, I learn a lot. And guys, I am not bragging or boasting, right? But the people that I bring on Ibi Speaks are top of the range, experts in your field, and they give us nuggets and insights that you can go to bank with. That's why I do what I do. Okay, now again, talking about experts now, you facilitate. But guys, though, before I ask the next questions, if you have any questions, if you have any contributions, if you have any comments, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below if you're watching via Zoom. And if you're watching via YouTube, again, in the comment section, and I'll read them out to my guest so she can answer them for us. Please feel free. And if you have any personal questions and you don't want to put it on the Zoom thing, you can send it to me privately and I'm going to read it. So the next question I'm going to ask you is that, professionally speaking, of course, you've done, you read, when you were talking about yourself, you said you had done financial planning. and then of course the retirement as well. So you kind of like have this financial and retirement planning thing, interwoven, and all of that. But then that you right now, of course, you're retired, but again, you also facilitate a pre-retirement, coaching for individuals and for groups. So which means that being retired yourself and talking to retirees or about to retire people yourself, you come across a lot. And so we're going to sit on this question for a bit because I have branches from this that I want to ask you.
Okay.
So the first question I'm going to ask you is, and I think you also, let me scratch my head. I think you also mentioned it. You said you talked about the fear. So I'm going to say, what are some of the most common fears that you see in the eyes of those that are about to retire?
Number one, usually is the fear of, do I have enough finances to cover me through this last phase of my life? Many are not sure they do, because again, there was no concerted plan to put that in place. Many worry that they would not have anything to wake up to do every day, which is why, when you push a bit further and you're trying to find out, what sort of vocation can you do? There must be something. And just, for the heck of it, they will say, okay, I'm going to open a shop and sell stuff. Or, I think that's one of the most common ones I hear about, that they're going to open a shop to sell things. And I'm asking, like, what? Do you even have any experience in this? What's your passion? What are the things you like doing? They haven't given it a thought. So I think is that fear of nothingness, nothing to do. And I might add that for many women, I have come across quite often the dread of being stuck with their spouses now for the rest of their lives. With no children. Oh yes, with no children to distract them.
Wow.
Because, like I said, it's possible that there was no concerted effort to build friendship over the years. So now you're worried that you're going to it's just you and this person. And so how is that going to work out? So I think there's some worry about that. And of course, always the issue of finances, because some people have, found themselves in places where, unlike what should be at a certain stage in life, maybe they still have bills they are paying.
Yeah.
Some still have rent to pay. Some still have children's school fees to pay. And when they look at the little nest egg they have for their retirement, it won't cut it. And then they suddenly realize that the salaries won't be coming anymore. So what are they going to do? So that fear is real.
So, there's so much. Listen, so I know that, there is the fear of nothing to do. And I know there's the fear of the finances, dwindling finances. But the second thing you mentioned, which is the fear of being stuck with their spouses,
yep,
is jarring, because I'm like, wow, do people really get scared of that? Is it the men and the women that get scared, or the women get scared?
I must say that it's usually the women that I get it from. And Ibinabo, I know why. That retirement is different for women and it's different for men. Let me put it that way. Because a man usually has been defined by his work. His job defines who he is. So when he retires and now he's not that GM anymore, he's not that MD, he's not that Oga, anymore. So question, who is he? And that usually now reflects on the marriage, because he's now really demanding so much attention from the wife. And for a female, for a woman, when she retires, even if she's retired to nothing, a woman can be busy from morning till night.
Yeah.
Very busy.
Yes.
She can be very busy, whether productive or unproductive business, she can be busy. But a man is not wired that way. So long as he's not now waking up to go to that office where he commands and is a person of authority. So he feels totally stripped now, and he's pretty clingy. I mean, women tell me their husbands are pretty clingy at this time of their lives. And the women are like, no. I mean, you can't do this to me. I have things to do. I mean, especially for a woman that, she has to go to shopping. So the man now wants to be driving her everywhere. And she's not even interested in that. Why? Because that relationship had not been built that way. And so she's finding it a bit, she's finding a guy just clinging. I mean, that's just bottom line. And the man now is desperate for her attention, desperate to please her because he just wants to have a slice of her own life. But she's moved on all the while, and he didn't realize it. It's different for men because, I mean, there's that ego thing plays out quite strongly.
Sis, sorry, I call you sis, but I have to call you sis because you're giving me an information that's, my God, it's scary and it's serious.
Yeah.
What you just said is both scary and serious because, listen, I'm going to do a session on empty nesting in a couple of weeks, maybe next week on 2 weeks' time. And, a lot of times, women don't know men to be demanding. They don't know men to be clingy. And I think what happens to the men at this stage is that they have an identity crisis. They're no longer, people don't suck up to them anymore. They don't
That's
go to
right.
office where they have all of those, powers and all of that. And you're right in saying that, let me just digress a bit. During COVID, there was a lot of problems because now husband and wife were forced to stay in the house. And then the men were now like seeing their wives. They started seeing each other more often than they usually did.
Yes.
And I think some people said the men began to even look at the fridge and see, began to see the flaws that each other had. And they're like, can I really cope with this? So I kind of like get it. So what then can they do to avoid this particular situation if men are listening?
I think they need to sit down and talk. One thing I find very useful is if when you're planning towards your retirement, if you're in a marriage, right, it's important that the man and the woman sit down over consecutive periods of time, discussing everything to do with their retirement. I mean, what are her expectations? What are his expectations? How much is he bringing into the picture? How much is she bringing in? What is their retirement dream? I mean, because, a woman's life in retirement, her dream may be different from her husband's own. I mean, maybe she probably just wants to, have a good time, travel and do this and that. And he wants to go and build a house in the village with his retirement proceeds. You understand? So it's important that they sit down and plan and make sure they cover everything so that they understand. They don't have to come to agreement on everything, but at least I can know what your expectations are. You will know what mine are, so that maybe there's a way we can meet each other halfway. The dangerous thing would be for both of us to come into retirement and we've not discussed it. I'm doing my thing, you are doing your thing. So it further creates that divide, so you have people living totally separate lives, in retirement. And again, like you said, this is your time of emptiness, and it's unfortunate that you cannot take advantage of the fact that, both of you are now just together, you have each other, to really, really show that friendship and love to each other at this time in your life. So yeah, so I think that's it.
Wow. Listen, you said that it's important for husband and wife to sit down and talk about their retirement dreams, their goals that they have. Because a lot of times people just assume, okay, so I'm going to retire. And when we work, in the working life, maybe the man is always traveling. God help the man. The man was also living a very reckless life. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that core business, And then the guy living a very reckless life, and the woman, like you said, have moved on mentally and emotionally, because sometimes the way when the men have power, they have a lot of people dancing, and then maybe she has emotionally divorced him in her mind, and has built lots of resilience and backup plans and had friends. And so when retirement happens and the man wants to come back and just like, what is your problem? Again, so that's the problem. So you're saying that we should sit down with our spouses and have a retirement plan.
Yeah.
Assuming somebody isn't married, is a single parent, should they sit down with themselves and also envision a retirement plan for themselves?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's for a single parent, assuming you have children, I think it's important because, retirement affects the entire family.
Yeah.
And in Africa, it even affects extended family.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's not just your thing only. So even these conversations, it's important to also bring the children in, right? So, I always advise that, when you're coming to retirement, let your children have an idea what you plan to do, because perhaps they can support you, perhaps they can't, perhaps they have some ideas and all that, but it should be a family thing. And then let them also know the sort of expectations, they can have of you, and vice versa, So if you are a single parent, I think that you should gather your children and have a conversation with them. And one of my clients told me that, she did this. She's a single parent, so she asked her children to, she wanted to talk with them. The children are successful, they're doing very well, but she said she needed them to know that, listen, I'm going into retirement. These are the things I'm going to do. I'm not available to you like that, don't at the snap of a finger, mommy, I want you to come. Even if they send tickets, I may be on a boat cruise. Because she said her retirement goals are travel. She just wants to go one boat cruise after the other. So she said she needed her children to hear this and understand her plans, what she wanted to do as a vocation, her property and all that. Because even in terms of legacy, right, estate planning, you have to start having those conversations with your family members, because these are your twilight years, right? So you do have to start having those conversations. So retirement is not just limited to yourself. You have to bring in the entire family.
Fantastic. You talked about boat cruise. You talked about people that have plans to travel, enjoy themselves. But again, the sad reality is that some people enter into retirement still paying school fees. Yeah. They still have to send children to school. They still haven't bought their built houses.
Yeah.
Some men especially. So again, so that is a difficulty, and so how, I don't know, I feel sad because it's a reality.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how I'm going to word this question, but I'm going to ask you, so what are the most common mistakes that people make? And assuming somebody is entering into retirement, still having to pay fees for the children and things like that, how can they retire successfully, with that kind of situation?
Well, there are two categories here. You could be paying school fees because you're a bit reckless with your life. And by that, I mean the person that would maybe in his 50s go and marry a second wife, and having had older children with his first wife, you now take on a younger wife, and you now have toddlers at the age of 60. I think that is a bit irresponsible. I don't even regret saying that. So that category is there. And I find that even they didn't think it through properly, because I've encountered a few of such people, and they're now desperate. Those are the sort of people that you see the fear and dread in their eyes, because now it's occurred to them that they are coming to this time where they won't have so much fun. So what are they going to do? And they truly don't have a plan for the children. But there are those that, I mean, through no fault of them. I mean, if you didn't marry on time, if the children didn't come on time, it's not, it's not your fault, But again, this is why the planning is really important, and not planning a year to retirement. It's really difficult to course correct at that point. And I quarrel with organizations that do not introduce retirement planning to their employees early in their careers.
Okay, not late, but early.
Not late, because you do, this plan has to have kicked in much earlier in the day. I mean, in your 30s, possibly, you should already be thinking that way, that time would come. And this is the time that you are at your most, active, energy and all that. So, and for many at that age, they also don't have so many responsibilities. So what are you doing with the excess funds? This is the time to start dumping all those funds in your retirement, fund account, so that, as you go on, by the time you're in your 50s, you are pretty impressed with the nest egg you have in your retirement, fund account. Because once you retire, except you are blessed to come into some amazing entrepreneurship venture that, brings you so much money, or you come into some inheritance, how else do you want to fund this, what could be 1/3 of your life? Because for many people, if you ask them how many years they would love to live, I mean, I've heard people say, oh, maybe 90, by God's grace, if God gives me, good health, I'd like to, maybe depart at 90. Okay, yes, so, but now you're retiring at 60, right? So you've just
20 more years.
You've just spent 2/3 of your life, so you have 1/3 left. How can you be going into 1/3 of your life without a plan? There has to be a plan, and planning much earlier in the day is really the ideal thing. But again, some of us don't come into that knowledge. We don't come into that place where somebody will call us aside and tell us, I mean, are you doing this? Are you doing that? Many people are totally ignorant of what we are talking about this evening, right? So unless there's an opportunity to hear it, they just didn't plan, it doesn't occur to them. And many apparently do not realize how much less of what they are currently earning they will be, that they're going to be earning in retirement. I mean, the truth is, if you are not earning 70 to 90% of your last salary while you are retired, your standard of living will drop. What you are earning in retirement has to be at least 70% of your last salary for you to still maintain that standard of living. Otherwise, you can't. So really, what are you going to do about children's school fees? So of course, this is the time to kick in some money-making venture, because you have to now do something to augment your retirement funds.
Okay. Now, you see, from the way, and I don't want to, let me not say devil's advocate. Let me just say this, right? So from your background, right, you worked in the bank. So you have quite, I would say, a well-cushioned, career, and working in the bank also means that you have quite, cushioned finances. You know what I mean? Now, I want to talk about the typical Nigerian civil servant, right? That is owed. They owe them. Even when they retire, they don't give them their gratuity on time. There are some states, people are retired for almost 5 years. It's now that they want to give them that pension money, So those people go into retirement straight off the bat with deprivation, because there is nothing that they can do about it. So that brings me to the next question. In your own, assuming somebody is listening today, it's in 2 layers now. Assuming someone is listening today, and the person probably works in the ministry, in the government office. What will the person do to cushion the eventuality of retiring, old pension, old gratuity and all of that. It's a common sense. The question is simple, right? But it's not so straightforward. People don't think about it. So assuming I have a little nephew or little niece that's a civil servant, and given the scenario that we have, that, a system that don't plan for their old people, what would you tell that person to do?
I'll tell them that while they're working, they should kickstart some vocation that they're going to use to earn money while they're working. And I think it's easier for civil servants because they have their work is not that intense, if I may say so, and maybe they don't close so late like others. So, you have more free time than the person that is working in the private sector. So you should make that time count for something. You start building something before you retire so that some proceeds are already coming in way before, you stop working. And I feel for people that are, state civil servants, it's not the same in the federal civil service though, because the PENCOM ensures that everybody gets their retirement process. Things have changed since the Pension Reform Act of 2014.
Okay.
So yeah, oh no, absolutely. It's not, we're not talking about, the last scheme. The current one is, you've been putting aside money, your employers have been contributing. It is cash based.
Okay.
So that when you do retire, your program withdrawal or annuity kicks in instantly. But it's different for the states. Not all the states have embraced the pension fund. And that's really sad because PENCOM required that all the states should come into this scheme. But some couldn't, I guess maybe because of some, financial issues like economic issues and maybe mismanagement issues also in some of the states.
Yeah.
So some people haven't been that lucky. So if you are in that category, so I think you should ensure that you start something. I've spoken to civil servants who are already running poultries, piggeries. Some are doing food business where they are cooking bulk food to deliver at weekends for people. That's pretty enterprising, and I applaud them because that is how to go about it. You can't just sit down and hope that, oh, well, let me see what I'll get when I retire. And for the civil service, it doesn't come to much. It does not come to much. It can't cover expenses because there's this exercise I do where, we look at your retirement budget, right? Let's list out what your anticipated income stream is, for example, and also your anticipated expenses. I always find that halfway through, people throw up their pens and say, Madam, you think no balance, so, So my question is, okay, so how are you coping currently? Not to talk of when you will then retire and the funds would have been dwindled, which is when they now start struggling that, well, maybe my children have to step in and send me money. But I say, no, sometimes it doesn't work that way because some of our children too are just trying to build their lives. So we can't depend so much on them. So my advice, to sort people Ibinabo is that you kickstart something while you are working. And, by the time you retire, then you can now come in and try to see whether you can scale it and really make it significantly productive so that you can augment, whatever you are not getting from your pensions.
Fantastic. So there's a few things that I've got from you from the conversation. First, you're saying that organizations shouldn't wait until their staff members are quarter to retirement before they begin any retirement pre-retirement sensitization program. So you're saying as a retirement expert that the organizations should do that off the jump as you're gaining employment. People should be made aware of retirement so people can now begin to plan actively in retirement. And you're also saying that people, even when they're working, should also have a side gig, something of vocation where they can actually start to do so, because it's easier then if you make the mistakes, you can correct yourself and then just grow.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Now there's another question that came to my mind. So we've talked about people who work in private sector. We've talked about people, of course, people who work in the civil service. The federal civil service in Nigeria, for example, have better offerings for retirees. We've talked about the states, and assuming somebody is self-employed all their lives, so how would they prepare for their own retirement? Are there schemes that they can contribute into if they are private? This PENCOM, does it also can private people also take part in it? Can they contribute towards the pension?
Oh, yes, they can. There's something called just like for the people in employment, it's called the retirement savings account. There's something called ABC, the additional voluntary contribution, So if you are self-employed, you could walk into a PFA and open an AVC account, because
what's that? PFA, you say?
Yes, you walk into a PFA and say you want to open an AVC account, an additional voluntary contribution account. So what that does for you, you enjoy the same investment portfolios that people that are in paid employment are employing, because your funds are being managed along with the retirement savings accounts of others. And we know that the PFAs have expert investment people that are doing that. And PENCOM, because they have guidelines, they know that they cannot be too risky about the investment profiles of their retirees. So you can do that, but you can also go to approach an insurance company and buy a pension plan from an insurance company, an individual pension plan, and so that way you are covered and you're putting aside money just like somebody that is in paid employment is doing. Yeah.
I'm just taking notes. Okay, now we talk about, again, thank you very much. And listen, if you have any questions or if you have any contributions, my guest is a seasoned retirement and financial planning expert. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave your questions and she would answer them for you. Now, there's something that you said that when you said it, I was sad. And you say that some people use their retirement money to build houses.
Yep.
What are the most common mistakes that people must avoid upon retirement?
One is assuming that you can use your retirement funds to now go and build a house in your village. I mean, I hear that all the time.
Okay.
Building a house in your village that's a dead asset, because there's no yield from it.
So where can you build a house in?
Well, you shouldn't really be using your retirement funds to build at all. You should be using your retirement funds to survive. You can't use your retirement fund for any capital projects.
Okay.
Because if you haven't put that in place before you retire, then it's going to be a problem, because by the time you retire, even any debts that you're owing should have been paid up, because that is part of the things you should do in planning towards your retirement. As your retirement is approaching, you make sure you pay down, clear any debts that you have. Mortgage, housing loan, car loan, whatever loan there is. Your plan should be to use your salary or whatever else you are earning from your employment to pay off those debts, so that you ensure that everything is paid up at retirement. And if there are any expenses that you can cut back onto, you do that, to continue to stash away more money towards your retirement, because it's possible that no other funds are coming in aside from your pensions. So you can't be hoping to use that to pay off any debt or to build a house at that stage, except, of course, the house is supposed to bring in, it's an investment that will then yield some proceeds for you. And even at that, you have to be very mindful, because at that stage in your life, the idea concerning your finances is to protect whatever you have.
Okay.
It's not for you to now be taking any risks, because the thing is you have to, even your investment portfolio should be diversified in such a way that is skewed towards safety. than risk.
Hmm.
Because you can't afford to lose any money at that stage.
Wow. Now, before I go into the next question, I just want to say to my listeners that if you go to my channel, my YouTube channel, Ibinabo Enebi, I've had episodes where we've talked about financial planning. Like I had a guest, Bolanle Shobowale, she talked about securing a financial future. I had another guest, what's her name now? Folake Oluwole, FO. We talked about retirement. And I also, in this series, also this Avoiding Later Life Crisis, I have Ayodeji Abel and Idowu Thompson also. They gave us very, very interesting conversation on finances in your retirement. I think Bolanle Shobowale did that. And I think Idowu Thompson and Ayodeji Abel in one of our episodes talks about finances. So I want you to go back and listen to those conversations. They are very, very important. Now, there's something else that you said I wanted to bring back to you.
Okay.
Is it a good time to start a new kind of business when you want to when you're upon retirement or towards a retirement? Sometimes, people would, let me just even say this. Let me not even talk about business. This, they will tell you crypto. They will tell you, a lot of people have lost money in this farming. They will tell you if you put, God knows how much amount, you get 40%, this one, all sorts of things. So if somebody is about getting ready to retire and they give them the bulk money, please, what should they do with that bulk money?
Go to an investment house, an asset management company.
Okay.
Yes. And ask to speak with a financial advisor.
Okay.
And then that's this is, you tell them what your retirement goals are. For you, it's long term. You want this money to kick in for you at a certain time of your life, blah, blah, blah. So depending on your risk appetite, depending on the season of life that you are in, your wealth manager or financial advisor would then design a portfolio for you. A portfolio that is going to ensure that at least, if the plan is to eat off, rip off what they're investing for you. Say maybe you want your interest every month, so it comes into you as some sort of program withdrawal, and that is fine. So they will manage the portfolio for you. That's what they are there for, to manage it. But you have to have told them what your investment goals are, right? So that they can design the portfolio that suits you for that period of your life. I think, and that's what you should do. I don't believe that you should invest in anything you do not understand. And I think that should be for all time. If you don't understand it, you have no business putting your money in. And I also don't think you should invest in anything that is in an unregulated industry. Which is why, cryptocurrency for a retiree, Bitcoin, no.
Okay.
No. The same thing, and I think that's what's happened to a lot of people that put money in our Greek funding, because it's not regulated. So, many people have lost a lot of money in that. So just because for now, your goal should be to protect what you have. The return on investment, you shouldn't be so interested in high ROI. No, you can't, because you don't have so much time left. If something goes wrong, you don't have time to recover.
Yeah.
If you started investing when you were in your 30s or 20s, oh no, you can take as many risks as you can, because you can always recover. If things go wrong, there's time for you to recover. But at this stage of your life, when you're approaching retirement or you're already in retirement, just protect what you have. That should be your watchword.
Wow. And there's this other thing, right? I'm not spoiling anybody's market or anything like that, but I still want to ask you that question. We talked about agro business, because lots of people got their fingers burnt. There's this other one. I know, well, let me just ask. Some people talk about buying. There's this thing about, I don't know whether it's a Ponzi scheme, but people talk about buying land. You know what I'm talking about. They buy land. Then when you buy the land, then you gain interest and all those things. Please, should a retired person venture into all those kind of things? Because it's like you put your money, after 5 months, the money will grow, this one, that one, that one, this one. I'm just asking you. I don't know. I'm asking.
Okay, so I mean, the question I always ask is, what exactly are you investing the money in that is going to give this phenomenal interest rate that
Even
supersedes
banks don't
inflation?
give. Even banks don't give.
Exactly. So, I mean, how? And a lot of times people can't answer that question. So I think we should ask these questions. And many times too, these scammers really target, the
Retired
old.
people.
Oh, yes, they do. They do. I know that for a fact. They do. And so we should be very mindful of that, to avoid all those schemes. And my point is, if you are in doubt, just stop. If you're in doubt, just stop. And if something is not regulated, I mean, is not under any regulatory body, then you have no business putting your money there.
But let me ask you this question, right? Because I know somebody that this thing affected. Some of those agro farming people, they claim to be regulated by some insurance companies.
Insurance companies are not regulators. Insurance companies themselves are regulated by Nigerian insurance, commission.
So sometimes when they want to make people, invest in the business, well, your funds are insured.
They promise a lot. I mean, but that's what every scammer would do anyway. So they promise so much. So they overpromise and underdeliver. That's what happens.
So if they say your funds are like, there's this popular bank, Wema Bank is the insurance, still run, Abi? If it's too good to be true, the interest rates are much more than the banks. And no matter how credible it appears to be, run for your life.
Yeah, because I think the thing is, if it's too good to be true, then truly it is too good to be true. Yes, it's too good to be true. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, we've talked about a lot, and I'm really enjoying this conversation with you, to be honest. So the next question I'm going to ask you, because we've talked about a lot of things, right? Yes. And I want to talk about, now let me put it this way now, somebody is listening and is saying, okay, these ladies have said a lot. So the next thing I want us to do is to have the retirement plan tracker. So somebody is sitting down here and said, okay, so how would I know that I am on the road to a successful retirement? What are the indices? What are the things on my checklist that I need to check to say, this is working? Otherwise, if I don't have them, then this is what I need to do. Because, the reason why I'm doing this is because a lot of times, it happens to me a lot. Experts come in and they talk about all of the problems, and by the time they finish telling you about the problems, you are more confused than when you started. Information overload, you're like, what is all of this? And because we are talking about retirement, I know that I'm going to send this video to people that are about to retire as well. And so sometimes it's in a shaky kind of situation, yeah? So what is the retirement plan checklist?
Okay, so one, ideally is up to the individual, but I would say one, that you've estimated your retirement spending, right? You must have an idea how much you would need for your retirement, and how you do this is to sort of track your current monthly expenditure, and just see where you are at, and you multiply by the number of years you anticipate you want to live, right? And then you've also calculated your retirement cash flow, like what is coming in versus what is going out. So, I mean, do you have some buffer, right? Of course, you've positioned your portfolio for withdrawals, and that would include your retirement savings account with your PFA. I mean, then you have your program withdrawal there, or if you bought annuity, that is also in place. So that when you start your retirement, that is going to kick in. And then you also know if you've conquered debts, you're not owing. Or you shouldn't be owing at the time you're about to retire. That is another indicator. and you've thought beyond your financial issues, because this will prove to be more important than money at the end of the day when you're in retirement. People always assume that finances are the all in all, you need for a good retirement, but that could be in place already. So what about the things that are beyond financial issues, right? What would you be doing every morning when you wake up? Your things like your health, how do you plan to, keeping fit, staying healthy? What activities are going to, be part of your new lifestyle? Do you want to come into some vocation, or you're going to start some entrepreneurship? What exactly will you be doing from AM to PM? Who are those that you have in your space that will form some sort of support groups for you? Because loneliness is a killer in older age. I don't like to say old age, in older age, right? You must have some people that you are in your space, people that are checking up on you, you're checking up on them. You have a very decent or vibrant social life, right? So that you are actively engaged, with other human beings, right? And if possible, make sure you have quite a number of younger people in your space, because they bring a lot of, vibrancy into your life, right? And they keep you abreast of what is happening in the world. And I think when you are in that place, I think that's your sweet spot. And once you are there, then I believe you've gotten everything right, or most things right. You're muted, Ibinabo.
Sorry.
Okay.
Listen, so estimated amount of money you're going to be spending.
Yes.
Now, see, while that is very good on paper, there are some people when they retired, maybe in the 1990s or 1980s or whatever, or 1990s, their retirement money was like 50,000, and 50,000 was big money at the time. In 2022, 50,000 naira is nothing, So for me, that is a red flag, because we don't know how inflation was setting. We don't know how things will turn out to be. So for me, I feel that I'm going to take your advice that we should at least look for a side gig that we would be doing. We should have started a side gig before then. But again, even in doing the side gig, for how long would somebody work? Listen, how long would it be? You retire from the paid service, you're having a side business. How long? When do you actually now sit down and just enjoy? So that's one question. Now, another checker is not owing anyone. Another one is be healthy. Loneliness is a killer. So have friends, and inject some young blood in your space. And I think this one you mentioned it earlier, and you said be in very good relationship with your spouse.
Oh, absolutely. If you do have one, yes.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So be in a very good relationship with your spouse and all of that. Yeah, so that looks very, very interesting. Yeah. So another question that I was going to ask you, let me just check here now. It's here. Sorry, give me a second. So listen, if you have any, if this program has impacted you, and if you have any comments and any contributions, you'd like to make, please feel free and leave your comments in the comment section below. And if you're watching this program, the Zoom, listen, you can please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Ibinabo Enebi. You can follow me on my social media handles, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Yeah, LinkedIn is Ibinabo Enebi, and please subscribe and just help my channel to grow. And if you really like this program as well, so feel free also to share the video with your friends and contacts. I think it's going to be on YouTube right away. So I'm just looking for one question, and let me get the question. 1 second. Yeah. Let me see. It said, so how do you know when it's time to retire? Yeah. Somebody asked a question. Let's listen. You know, one of the questions, thank you very much for that. Somebody said, can Mrs. Orungbe talk about women and Omugo? That is one of my questions, because you said that Omugo is not a retirement plan. And I said that I'm going to take you up on that. I said it. But let's answer the Omugo one first, then we'll go back to this.
So of course, Omugo is not a retirement plan. I mean, that cannot be what you're hoping to do for 30 years of your life. Now that we have sort of calculated this thing to be, if God, gives us the grace, that this could be 30 years of our life. But on a serious note, I hear this all the time, from women, and that comes from a place of not having thought through what they'll be doing in their retirement years. I mean, no planning whatsoever. So when you then engage them and you're trying to find out, okay, I mean, one question, when are you retiring? And you hear maybe, oh, in 3 months' time, in 8 months' time. Okay, so what are you going to be doing? What's the plan? I mean, we'll be busy with Omugo. I mean, I remember the first time I heard it, I thought, okay, how many children do you have? And the woman said she has 3 children. I said, so that is what you'll be doing. She said, Madam, you have to go and help them and all that. So, I mean, it became a joke to me. And I would tell women that, listen, don't do this yourself. Omugo is not a retirement plan, because that cannot be what you are hinging your entire retirement season to be doing, to move from one child's house to the other. And I always remind women that listen, because now I'm getting a feeling that this Omugo is a bit dodgy now, because I think women are actually using this to escape from their husbands. Remember we talked about clingy men the other time? So, I mean, I've also found that on a serious note, Ibinabo, that is true. That is true, because like we said, retirement is different for men. Because I mean, some men actually become pretty cranky out of boredom and just not being in charge anymore of any domain, so to speak. So they now want, the wife to be their source of entertainment. And the woman is like, listen, so-and-so has given birth, I'll be off to America, I'll be off to Enugu, I'll be off to Abuja. But I mean, and the women are mischievous, because sometimes I know that they are actually using it to escape from this man, So so I just made that up, that listen, Omugo is not a retirement plan. You have to have something more tangible to do. I mean, and really, how many children do you have? Are they going to be giving birth every year? Because on the converse too, the men now, will joke and say, okay, since madam will be busy doing Omugo, maybe we'll go and look for one younger wife to marry. I said, okay, remember that your retirement benefits cannot carry a younger wife. I hope you know that, and it becomes a joke. But on a serious note, some people have told me that was their plan for retirement. It is not a retirement plan. And cut your children some slack, And I hope we know that most of these children can get anything we are doing for them when we come from Omugo. It's on YouTube.
Now, now you're spoiling my mind. No,
Ibinabo is on YouTube. So,
you know what, right? It's so funny, because I said I was going to take you up on this. Just before the program, a friend of mine called me and was like, Ibi, this Omugo business you're saying, you're really, really going to cause problems here, because you're right in saying that a lot of women are using the Omugo as a mischief. Because some women would say, when the man was, she gave me a story about a lady that apparently her husband was very wicked to her when they were young. So
there you go.
Sometimes she's in France, and this one time she's in Canada. Sometimes she has got to Abuja. Another time she's in America. She says she's going to that. The man has not even started, because she's going to punish him. Really,
you see what I mean?
Yes, it's true that she's going to punish him. So some women use the Omugo as
an escape route
to revenge.
Yep.
To revenge on the, and I'm appealing to women, please. Please, I beg. It's, sometimes when you go to Ikoyi club, right? In the evening, you see these babas, you're just sitting down outside, just drinking. It's like, sometimes the quick platform is like an old people's home. Please, like, you see lots of old men just sitting down there and just
killing time
and just killing time, because most of them, their wives are not even, with them. Their wives have traveled. And I think that we women should reconsider this thing that we're doing. And I think also that the men should also be careful the way they treat their wives, so that when they get to this retirement age, the women wouldn't use their mugo as at escape route. But there's something I said I was going to take up with you. And on a more serious note, right? I think we had a conversation yesterday, or was it yesterday? Yesterday. So, and when we talk about this, we say our generations have changed. There are so many people that you may know, that I may know, that have spent so much. Some people gathered as they were young. They gathered money, investments, properties, right? And you know what it is like to send children to school. And they send their children to school. Some have sent their children abroad to school. It wasn't that bad initially. Even up until 2015, the exchange rate wasn't that bad. But today you find out that people have sold houses.
Yeah.
Mothers have sold jewelry, corals, diamonds, gold, everything. Sold more than one house to send their children to school. And I feel, right, that in some way, now people may say, no. I feel in some way that parents should have some form of a return on investments on their kids. I'm not saying depend, but we appreciated our parents. And biblically, the Bible says that, that children should look after their grandparents and their parents. Way of rewarding them. So, because a lot of people say, oh, children of these days, you don't expect anything from them. No, I don't feel that is right. So, because a lot of people have made sacrifices. A lot of parents have made sacrifices. A lot of parents have worked, people even that live abroad have worked odd jobs, and all of that. So what do you say? I mean, what do you say about that? Omugo is causing problem there. I'm going to read the question.
On the issue of children, it's really sad when children develop this sense of entitlement, or I don't know how else to put it, where they feel, you educated me, you've done your job and all that. Any child that was well raised, would usually, out of just a sense of gratitude to their parents, and just, from time to time, maybe even to send some stipend. The parents don't need the money, or they shouldn't need the money. But when a child extends that sense of gratitude, to their parents, it's quite a thing of joy. And I know the way you pray for a child that does that to you. So imagine a child that doesn't. I feel the child is missing out on all these blessings. Unfortunately, I hear that is happening a lot, where children don't feel, what? You trained me, so what? You were doing your job as a parent. I don't think that is right. Unfortunately, the wrong person to have the conversation with the children now would be the parents. Do you understand? So I think, that sort of thing, maybe a coach or a mentor would normally raise with that child, that, listen, somebody has to correct that child. Because I'm hearing this quite a lot now, where children turn their backs on their parents, and even in instances that they are supposedly doing well, they are not even remembering the people that sacrificed so much to put them through school. But on the part of the parent, I think wisdom should prevail. And what you should do is, on your own, have a plan for your old age. So that if a child decides to step in to assist, then it's a bonus. It's a bonus. Because for you to now assume, and I hear this, what you have just told me now, Ibinabo, I hear it all the time, especially with male civil servants. And I don't know why that is, especially with men. There's that sense of entitlement, because when we do the that exercise of your retirement budget, where you have to, in anticipation of, what you'll be getting, what sort of income will be coming in from your retirement savings account, annuity, pension plan, whatever else. People always add children support. And I say, okay, I mean, are you sure anything is coming in? I said, why won't anything come in? Do you know what I suffered to send these children to school? I said, okay, but you can't assume that they would step in to help you, right? And let me also say that sometimes some of the children are not in a position to actually, because life is not easy right now. Even for those that are abroad, if they've been blessed to go and school abroad and they're working there, the bills are not easy. So by the time they pay their rents, whatever else, hydro, water, whatever, I mean, they are living on some shoestring budgets, at least for the first few years of their lives. So for a parent to expect them now, because you sold jewelry, you sold your house to send them to school, what if they can't really afford to be sending anything yet?
Okay, I get it. So what I hear from this conversation is balance, expectations, to manage our expectations, yeah?
Yes.
Is to manage your expectations and plan for your life. Manage expectations and plan for your life. Now, I want to take this question and contribution someone said, but are you discouraging women from doing omugwo? I think life is about striking a balance. I really enjoyed this. I really benefited from this session. Thank you, Mrs. Orungbe.
Let me tell you, my daughter, by God's grace, is going to be a mother in the next few years. I'm trusting God. I will be there for omugwo. But what I'm saying is that I'm in retirement already. There's no omugwo right now. So, I mean, my life is not dead. I certainly will do omugwo. I think it's every mother's delight, actually, to step in to do this for their daughters. And it's also a time of bonding, and yeah, it's just, it's a lovely gesture. So I'm not saying no mother should not do that. Absolutely not. Trust me, I'm going to do it. What I'm saying is that is not what I'm spending my entire retirement doing. Yeah. I mean, I'm already how many years in retirement, and no omugwo has come up. What would I have done if that was all I was expecting to be doing? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What I'm just like is the other side of it that we talked about, where we are now using it as, something to escape from something. I wish it shouldn't be.
Okay, let me ask you this question. How do we know when it's time to retire?
One, when your employment time is up.
Okay.
I mean, depending on whatever institution you work in. But I mean, when I talk to young people too, I've heard them say, no, I want to retire early. I want to retire in my 40s and all that. But it's really up to the individual. I mean, no two people are the same. And for those who are even retiring early, they are probably retiring from one thing to go into something else.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. They're probably retiring. Yeah. So except that, yeah.
Perfect. Because I know that I keep talking about my elder sisters. They retired from their regular jobs, but they still went ahead. One of them went to lecture, one of them went back to school. So it's like, I think there's something you said, that retirement, it could be another time when you rediscover your life. Because I remember when I had Folapo Oluwole Ethel, she talks about retirement time was like, it was before her retirement, like 5 years to her retirement, she started planning. And it was during her retirement that she became FO. So it was like a new lease of life to become something else, to become who she actually wanted to become. So retirement could be an opportunity then to become that person that you've always wanted to become. Now, I have this picture to show you. I don't want to embarrass myself by trying to do what is it called? Picture sharing, because I cannot do it. But let me just do this. You sent me this picture, right? This thing. I saw it on you or something and I laughed. I don't know if anybody can read it. Hey, it's about two old people. Right. Let me see if I can share my screen.
Yes.
Two old people. They went on vacation and they were sleepy. My goodness. And I couldn't believe it. I laughed. And let me see if I can share the screen. Okay. Share screen, yeah? Okay,
Yeah.
let me see. I don't know if. Okay, can you see the picture?
Yes, you can. Why you shouldn't wait until retirement to start traveling?
This picture makes me laugh. So this picture, look at them. The man was, this man was so good. He didn't go and sell them, you know? He was so good. So look at
He's almost laughing himself.
He is laughing. So the next question I want to ask you about is, how should we enjoy our retirement?
I think it's in phases, right? When you first retire, you know, you stop working, there's that thing I call it the sugar rush period.
Yeah.
Where you are just so excited to not have to go to the office. I mean, no alarm is waking you up anymore. And you're in that place where you're like, thank God, you know, I've retired. Some people will say, oh, yes, I mean, I'm just going to go on a boat cruise for the first few months. Fair enough. So you go on the boat cruise, you come back. When you come back, right, if there has not been a plan, you know, there'll be wahala, because now your alarm is not going off at any time, but you wake up anyway. Mm-hmm. Because what happens is, when you have been used to a certain time of waking up, I mean, I'm still like that from how many years of grinding on going to Lagos Island. I mean, I wake up at 4:30 a.m. every day, Monday through to Sunday. I don't need an alarm, and I find it so annoying. So your body wakes up, and then you now realize that you have nothing to do. I mean, the first few weeks is fine. I mean, you and Netflix, you and TV, you and this and that. But, you know, after a while, if there was no plan, depression can set in, because you were not planning for this period of enforced relaxation and enforced liberty. You're not used to it. It seemed like you were going to enjoy it, but apparently it's not quite like that. So when people feel that when they retire, you know, I mean, I'm retired anyway, what's there to plan for? You're not supposed to be doing anything. Oh yes, it would help if you have something doing. Nothing that is fast-paced, something that you're doing at your own leisure, something that you love doing anyway. And it helps if whatever vocation you take on fuels your passion. So what that then means is that, I mean, regardless of any issues, you are enjoying it anyway. That is the best place to be. So, I mean, even if it's 3-4 hours a day of doing this, that is fine. There's something I always encourage retirees to do, is to there's a sheet that I usually give out, a worksheet, for you to log in your best retirement day, starting from when you wake up, whatever that time is, whether it's 5 a.m., what are you doing at 5 a.m.? What are you doing at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., you know, like that, till you go to bed at 10. What are you doing? It's very important that you log in the activities that you feel would give you joy, and at the same time engage your mind and keep you active, and, you know, whatever. But log it in and see whether it's doable. Because if it is, then that is the type of day you should aspire to have every retirement day. Because if you don't, boredom will kick in. And and we should also realize that our social circle shrinks as we get older.
Yeah.
Most likely, once you stop working, you lose about 90% of all your contacts. Oh, yes. Definitely, because for many of us, most of our contacts are
work.
People at work, or people to do with work. Clients, colleagues, whatever. Yes, and that's the truth. So outside of work, who do you have on your contact list? So it could be as many as losing 90% of people on your contact list. So this 10% you have left, who are they? How often do you have them around you? Because boredom is real in retirement. It is real. So that exercise of logging in your best retirement day for me is really important. And I always ensure that people do it. And people find that at some point, they have nothing to write. I'm awake, quiet time. Then honestly, nothing. And then because I remember my mom lived with me for the last 3 or 4 months of her life. So, and I saw her life. Yes, she was 80, but I'm not 80, you can be more active than that. But my mom woke up to nothing. And again, it's probably part of what fuels what I do now, that I don't want my life to be like that. She woke up to nothing. So breakfast was a project. Oh no, she dramatized breakfast. What's she going to have for breakfast? So that on its own is something. And then as I'm leaving for work, she's asking me, so what's she going to have for lunch? And I'm saying, whatever you want to have for lunch. But meal times were practically all she had to keep her busy. So that is not where we want to be. So that exercise is really important. Log in your best retirement day, plot it and see what you'll be doing from the time you wake up to when you go to bed.
Fantastic. Now,
it will be very interesting.
Liz, I've learned so much, but I have just 2 more questions to ask you. First, if somebody wants to, is interested in what you do and want to contact you, how would they contact you?
Okay, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn. My name is Inyang Sami-Orungbe. So you can find me with that name on Facebook, on LinkedIn. I also, for the retirement coaching I do, my platform is the Bloombox platform, at the Bloombox platform on Instagram and on Facebook and Twitter.
Fantastic. Now,
and my personal Instagram is Sami-Orungbe on Instagram. Sami-Orungbe, yes, on Instagram.
Yeah, you know what I wanted to ask you, because I'm looking at you since I know that you're retired and you're on the 6th floor, but the way your skin is shining, please, I beg. What is your skin routine? I beg.
No, that I think is the genes. And I'm not even being, I'm not trying to be funny about this. It's the genes. I think I inherited it from my mom.
What are you rubbing on your body?
Nivea.
Is it like?
I'm not. Yeah, again, I'm. You know those days in university when you have your friends and they say, oh, they are mixing all kinds of concoction. And when you ask them, what are you using? They say, it's Johnson baby lotion. No, I mean, of course, it's a lie, and you knew, but on a serious note, that's all I use, Nivea.
You look amazing.
And I've been using it for years. So,
which of the Nivea? Is it the blue one, or is it the one that has vitamin C? Is it the one that is cocoa? Which one? Because look at how people doing my neck as if I want to gossip. I'm asking for my viewers.
I think it's that one that says like sort of something radiance. The one that has something radiance. That's to show you I'm not even particular about it. Yeah.
This line. Chai. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the conversation that I had with my guest. Just quickly, I have an article that was written almost a year ago by Emmanuel Okara, and it's Retirement is Not a Stroll in the Park, 8 Lessons I've Learned. It's a very interesting read. You've got to check it out. And I also had, I think I did some videos. I had Bolande Shobowale. She talked about securing your financial future. She talked very aptly about retirement. And in this Avoiding Later Life Crisis series, I had 2 guests, Ayodeji Abel and Ido Thompson, talk about planning your finances as well. And also I had FO also talk about retirement. So what I'm telling you all of this is that they've had different perspectives, but we all weave a rich tapestry into the whole idea of retiring successfully. So next week or next time, I'm going to have another guest, and we're going to talk about another very interesting episode or conversation in the Avoiding the Later Life Crisis series. And guys, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe. It's Ibinabo Enebi. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe. It's Ibinabo Enebi. Check out my blog on Ibinabo Enebi, and listen. What else? Listen, like my videos, subscribe, share these videos, and encourage me. So thank you. So yeah, that's your email address. That's your Instagram handle.
Yes.
So yeah, it's Sam. Sami-Orungbe. Yes, fantastic. So guys, until I see you next time, thank you very much. And sis, I'm going to call you. And bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. It's been lovely being here.